Welcome to Dracula Daily. Today's our fourth installment, May 7th. First, let me address a couple of things that I got wrong. We are seeing another primary source for Dracula in his own voice, a very brief note that basically says, sorry I was gone all day. And second, we do have the floating blue lights in the forest addressed, being markers, magical markers of buried treasure. There's our payoff for that. But I'm going to stand by my note to Bram Stoker and say, do we need this? Unless it comes back around. Is it going to appear in England? Otherwise, I would cut it. But then we get to what I'm going to focus on as the crux of the matter. This might be my thesis for my entire interpretation of the book. And it's Dracula's line, "A stranger in a strange land. He is no one." Now, we also, in the context of that quote, get what Dracula's plan is. And this is nothing to do with him being a vampire. He's emigrating from his home where his glory days are over to a land of opportunity, in this case, England. But he knows that he will never be an Englishman, and he will always be marked as a stranger, as a foreigner. And so not only is Harker there to help him with the purchase of land in England, but also to help him assimilate in England, which is ultimately an impossible task. Dracula, as this Eastern European count, as this Oriental in the context that Harker has been using it, and the English of the day would have used it, will never be an Englishman, will never be marked as anything but an outsider. Excuse me. So this is what the whole book is about. It's about the appearance of the stranger, the outsider, the foreigner. And I'm going to get a little bit into the weeds here. Bram Stoker was not an Englishman. Bram Stoker was a red-haired Irishman who traveled in high society England. His wife was a debutante. He was the personal assistant to Sir Henry Irving, the most famous actor of his day. He knew the Prime Minister. He was friends with Oscar Wilde, who was actually an ex-lover of his wife's. But he was not on equal footing with any of these people, including Walt Whitman, who he had a long-distance pen-pal relationship with. Whether Bram Stoker realized it or not while he was writing this, he is writing about the experience of the outsider who is trying to fit in to society. And that, I think, is the crux of the entire book. And I think it's part of why this book has endured so long, because there are other tales of the outsider, cautionary, moralizing stories about beware of the foreigner that come out of this same period. One that I can really point to is Svengali, who is similarly a mystical, parasitic outsider preying on innocent English women. But Svengali is entirely repugnant and is blatantly anti-Semitic. And where Dracula can be interpreted as an anti-Semitic metaphor, the nuance that Stoker approaches the storytelling with as an outsider himself creates so much sympathy for the character of Dracula himself. He is so interesting. He wants to be part of society. He doesn't want to just destroy it. And in the context of his story that he's telling to Harker right now in this entry, his plan is perfectly reasonable, completely understandable. Obviously, we know that there's going to be another supernatural layer to it, but because the non-metaphysical, the unmagical layer of Dracula's story is so relatable, Dracula himself is so relatable, so that 125 years later, we're still talking about it. We're talking about it, right? Because all of us who can empathize with the experience of the outsider can therefore empathize with the experience of Dracula himself, regardless of the fact that ultimately he is a monster. But Svengali is so repugnant, so vile, so evil. He's completely forgotten as a work of literature or a piece of fiction. We know the name. We have a vague sense that he's mystical-ish figure, but we don't know any details about him in the cultural zeitgeist that we live in right now, because he is a complete outsider, written about from the perspective of someone who hates outsiders, as opposed to Dracula, as opposed to Bram Stoker. And I think that this journal entry that we're reading right here, right now, is delivering that to us for the first time, because up until now, the other has been just so otherized by Harker in his observances that we have no way to relate to any of the peasants, innkeepers, coachmen that he's met along the way. They're all just ornamentation to his travelogue. But now we actually hear the voice of an outsider who wants to fit in. This is what the book is about. And in universe, inside the storytelling, Dracula is delivering his message about what it's like to be an outsider, but he's also telling Harker, a stranger in a strange land is no one. And that's exactly what Harker is.